Yo, what is up, Ramblin' Raiders listeners? Welcome back to the podcast, episode 167, I believe. We're mixing it up a little bit. We're going to be talking basketball, doing a full-blown basketball season preview with our main man of honor here, which I'll introduce in just a second. For anyone new tuning in to our show, to our production, this is some premium Texas Tech content with a few laughs, some questionable takes. Tonight's takes are going to be less questionable because we have a man who actually knows more of what he's talking about and understands the ins and outs of Texas Tech basketball, man, at a high level. So less questionable takes tonight, maybe from me. We'll see. We're a part of the Guns Up Nation network in partnership with them. We're all over social media, guys. We're on Instagram at Ramblin' Raiders, Twitter at Ramblin' Raiders, and our Facebook page is Ramblin' Raiders Podcast. Lastly, if you guys could actually two things, rate, review, subscribe. So much plugging I got to do here, man. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple Pod, Spotify, wherever you can. It helps us kind of gauge where we're at and how we're doing with our listenership. And then our biggest thing, which you will be able to see this on our YouTube channel, this exclusive interview. So make sure you're subscribed to the Ramblin' Raiders Media YouTube channel. Drop us a sub there, and you'll have access to the visual side of these interviews and of this content. And so with all of that out of the way, I got to get my 5-minute Ramblin' Raiders plug first. I want to it's long overdue, honestly. I want to introduce a guy who Nick and I have wanted to have on this podcast for a long time. I was telling Ryan this pre-pod and just schedules, and everything, and us kind of being busy and trying to find the right interval for this kind of interview. And so it's finally great to have the man with the plan, the expert, in my opinion, when it comes to, I hold him in high regard when it comes to really all things Texas Tech, but especially Texas Tech basketball. Ryan Mainville, what's up, man? Welcome to the Ramblin' Raiders podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jackson. You're too nice in your intro, but I appreciate it. I definitely try to keep a good pulse on things and just a fan like everybody else, just enjoying the ride, enjoying some good basketball, and looking forward to talking about it today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think you do great breakdowns of actually pulling clips from film, showing how our schematics work, whether it's tempo on offense or how our defense is able to, the no middle, defensive scheme or whatever it is, man. And actually I'll give you, at the end, we'll do this as well, but a plug for Twitter or any of your social medias, man. If you want to go ahead and plug that, if y'all aren't following Ryan, you really need to, man. Like I said, there's him and a few other guys that I think if you're not following as a Tech fan, you're missing out on some great content.
Yeah, again, appreciate the plug. Anybody listening can follow me at Ryan Mainville. It's just my name. Should have some good stuff coming out on Twitter as the season kind of ramps up and quality of opponents increases. But then you can follow the Gambling Gauchos, which is the podcast that I just joined. We're going to have lots of cool player breakdowns and stuff like that over on their channels. So it's going to be an exciting basketball season and looking forward to it.
Yeah, right on, man. I know they have the Discord channel going and just a lot working over there. So make sure y'all follow and make sure that you're giving Ryan a follow as well, for not only just the kind of analytical and intricate, maybe schematic side of things, but also, man, I was cracking up, dude, at that tweet you just put out saying last night was a movie, or what was it, like last night was a movie, then here's what last night, just UT fan base. They got the students there, but they couldn't get them hyped up. So it's not just purely, pure, like I said, schematics, and pure analytics. Ryan will hit you with some zingers every now and then as well, man.
Yeah, I try to keep the breakdown central, and then sometimes I got to do the dunking myself. Sometimes it gets old just watching other people do it, and so sometimes I hop in there and I'll take the alley oop myself.
It's good, man. I know it's good. I love the Texas Tech outlets. Everybody passes it around. Got to make sure we're all getting our dunks in, and that was just a great post. Just I don't know if Texas' student section, I doubt it. I don't know if they'll ever be able to get to where Beard wants them to. But yeah, last night it was funny seeing them. They were there, in in their seats. They showed up somewhat. I think they were 75% capacity at the Mood, but just didn't really know how to act, man. They were having a hard time getting engaged, kind of like it was like their first basketball game to ever attend.
It might have been, in all honesty, it might have been the first game that they attended in Austin. But I mean, hey, they're doing whatever it takes to get them through the doors there. it seems to be working at least to some degree, even when you close off your upper deck. And so let's see
Yeah.
if they can find some ways to market some in arena actual activity other than just entrance.
Yeah, Chris Beard is the Jackie Moon of Big 12 coaches, man. He's a promoter. He knows how to get people in the door, whatever it takes. So we'll tip of the cap to him on that one. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, man. We'll get into kind of our main, portion of this podcast. I have a lot of good questions lined up for Ryan, and then our followers also tweeted out some questions for you, man. When we put out a feeler earlier in light and in preparation of this episode. So let's kind of look at first game 1-0 Northwestern State. Was that I literally was just watching it. I know they're out of Louisiana, right? Northwestern State, the Demons, man. They're a tune-up game, right? Everybody's going through them right now. Let me just start actually before we get into personnel. This is going to be a little bit off script, off the outline, but I mean, how did you feel, man? Just kind of a game one out of the way, got the jitters out of the way, got to see guys stepping up. Sort of, what was your just instant reaction to that first dub?
Yeah, I think it was, it's the first game of the season. You've always got to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. Don't try to overanalyze things that happen on the court. But I think it was interesting to kind of see what I expected come to life. So the starting five was the starting five that I'd imagined would take the court. Jalen Tyson kind of proved that he can be that 3-level scorer for this team. Pop Isaacs displayed his true point guard abilities in a really nice way and shot the ball a little bit better than I expected. And then, that first night of the season, you're always kind of looking for guys that'll surprise you, guys that are kind of in the middle of the rotation and come into the game and make a big difference. And I was really impressed with Kerwin Walton last night. I think he just played a really complete game. I think it's clear that he's bought into the culture at Texas Tech, and I was really impressed with his performance. I think if he can continue to kind of play like that, he can be a central glue guy to this team. But overall, first night, you kind of check the boxes of what you wanted to see. Improve shooting, had a couple of really good defensive possessions, and then now you've got the groundwork kind of laid for what you need to improve on over these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was an impressive first outing. What I love seeing is that, since 2019, since the national championship run, the Texas Tech faithful, man, the fans, the student section. I mean, you have a sold out. I have to go back and see it again. I mean, it was damn near sold out. It was pretty close, if not completely sold out for, again, Northwestern State, a tune up game. Shout out Red Raider Nation, Raider Riot, everybody who was in attendance last night. That just really highlights, where this program's at culturally. And I mean, it almost feels like, last year we're 18-0 at home, right? It's so hard to keep hitting these milestones and keep building on this success, but these fans keep coming out day in and day out, night in, night out. And it's just really impressive to see. So awesome environment. That's what, whenever we get those recruits, when it's easy for Adams to go out and get these guys out of the portal, or get some of these young, 3, 4, 5-star, kids out of high school. It's the fans that are, drawing them in, playing. I thought Chris Level had a great line talking about Northwestern State, saying this could be the biggest crowd they play in front of all year, So that was,
Yeah, and I mean, even like those guys, their entire college careers, like it's just an unreal atmosphere. The USA it's a different place to play basketball than a lot of other places in the country, and it could be Northwestern State or Rider High School that's playing against Texas Tech the first game of the season. It doesn't matter. Texas Tech fans are going to pack the house. They've been itching for basketball. It's been 8 months. This is a fan base that's just excited for the direction of the program. And it feels silly because you're not surprised, but you continue to be surprised anyways by what Texas Tech fans do night in and night out. It's really exceptional, the home court advantage that this team has developed. And I mean, a large part of that is due to the fans.
Yeah. Yeah. It might have been an added bonus too. I think after that TCU Tech football game on Saturday, everybody just wanted to get the mouthwash out, man, get a little bit of a different taste. Felt good to get back in the win column after the last 2 weeks for football. But you're right. Absolutely. I mean, the culture there is insane. Atmosphere is insane. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's pretty clearly evident. All right, let's start with personnel, Ryan. When you look at, I think every year fans, when they look at a new season, especially with basketball, football, it's really hard to get into the weeds of every guy on on defense and offense and who's the backups. And with basketball, and it's different with basketball. It's a little bit easier because you only have, 12, 12, 13 guys on the team at any given time, right? So for new faces, which there are a lot of them, majority of this team is new faces. What do fans need to be aware of, I guess, is the best way to put it, going into the season when it comes to the new guys? Who kind of stands out to you? Who's someone to keep an eye on as far as fresh players?
Yeah, I mean, this is Texas Tech, so let's go ahead and let's start with the transfers. And obviously, the biggest one of that group is Fardaws Amac, who injured his foot to some degree or another, maybe a broken foot, maybe something else. Seems like nobody really knows, but he's going to miss some time. And I think for him, I'm really interested to see what he looks like when he comes back. But it doesn't seem like that'll be at least for a number of weeks or maybe even months. And so when Fardaws Amex is back, he's going to be a big difference. But for now, you got to talk about the guys that are healthy. And I think really the biggest one of the group is Davion Harmon, just in terms of being able to land a veteran guy who's played Big 12 basketball before is really rare. And Harmon's a really good player. He's a good dude, Texas guy. He's been around this state, played basketball at a really high level here at Denton Guyer, and he's going to do a lot for this team. He's going to have some games where he's a little bit choppy and he's adjusting to a new system. I think we saw a slight glimpse at that last night and just him adjusting a bit to more on ball responsibilities, but I was still really impressed with his performance. Then you've got guys like Jalen Tyson, who was obviously with the team for a lot of last year, but never really played. And then had an absurd offseason. Everyone's raving about him, a guy that can really score at all three levels. And he comes out night one against Northwestern State and just proves that he's got the shot. And then two guys that I think are going to be really important utility players for this team are Demarion Williams and Kerwin Walton. Kerwin Walton, kind of a 3-and-D guy, but proved to be on night one a guy that'll just go and do anything to help the team win a game. And then Demarion Williams is a really interesting guard with just the ability to do a lot of different things well. He can shoot the ball well. He's a good passer, and he does not turn the ball over. And so I think we're talking Texas Tech, so we got to start with the transfers.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, man. And I was really impressed, going into last night, and we'll get to Bacho, big bad Bacho here in a minute. But Jalen Tyson is somebody who we've kind of actually interacted with in the offseason, through Guns Up Nation and looking at NIL and things of that nature. And trying to line up some interviews maybe. I mean, he's a guy that there's a lot of interest around him, not only because he was when he was initially recruited to Tech with Beard. I mean, he was like one of our highest rated, I think, recruits at the time, right, that we had. And, goes to Texas. There's the storyline. Don't fault him, right? He's following the coach that recruited him out of high school. Totally understand that. Doesn't quite work out there. I don't know, the vibe wasn't right. The feel wasn't right. Maybe he wasn't getting the playing time he wanted. Comes back to Texas Tech. It's one of these kind of really interesting stories when you look at transfers, when you look at college basketball, and just the route he's taken to, start at Tech, go to biggest rival in state, biggest rival in general, but in state, in UT, and then comes back to Texas Tech. Look, I don't really remember watching him too much in his limited action at Texas, but tell you what, he impressed me last night. And not just, coming in, he was highly touted on the offensive end, his offensive capabilities. Last night, I think we saw that he was hungry on defense, and that's something that fans might have wondered going in, but with Mark Adams, you're not going to play unless you're willing to grind it out on D. So, yeah, man, I think those are good points, and I was really impressed with Jalen Tyson last night. I thought he was a lot of fun to watch, as well as Davion Harmon too. He's got such a great charisma about him and energy about him. I know he's close with Drew Steffi, 2023, right, recruit. For Texas Tech, he's close with their family, I guess, through those high school, Texas high school basketball circuit. And I know he had I think kind of a hand in connections that helped us, land Fardaws Amac. So, yeah, both exciting guys. And here, cheers to, I mean, this is the kind of stuff I can contribute, when it comes to basketball breakdown and these personalities and what these guys are bringing to the table. But how about let's talk about the new guys who are, freshmen, not out of the transfer portal, but just are young. And there's I think more than we've had in God knows how long, because we've, built our teams off the back of older veteran transfers. A lot of new guys, Ryan. Let's talk about them real quick. Some young guys that stepped up last night.
Yeah, this is going to be the first year in a while where you have freshmen contributing and really kind of accessory roles. These aren't freshmen that are necessarily going to be the star player. I think, whenever Jemias Ramsey was recruited to Texas Tech, when he came into the program, their offense essentially ran through him at times during that season. I don't really think that's going to be the case with this Texas Tech team. I think they've done a good job at bringing in some veteran presence, some depth, and so I think these freshmen can really play a support role, which is good. And Pop Isaacs is obviously the most notable one. Started in the season opener, which is pretty incredible for a true freshman to start at the point guard position. It's really difficult to do. He had some growing pains, 5 turnovers on opening night. That can't happen. I'm sure that's being addressed in practice,
Mhm.
but with those 5 turnovers comes somebody with playmaking instincts that Texas Tech has not had in a very long while. And so,
Yeah.
if you can kind of get Pop Isaacs to be a Tyrese Hunter light, obviously Hunter played at Iowa State last season, now playing at Texas, but he was arguably the best guard in the Big 12 last year, and was a true freshman, but also turned the ball over like 4 times a game. And there were some headaches, but that's what you get playing point guard in this league as a true freshman. And I think Isaacs, man, he's shown that he can do it throughout practice this offseason. I think he had a promising first game despite the turnovers. And then you've got Lamar Washington, who's a guy that's really intrigued me throughout the cycle just because of the degree of basketball that he's played. He's played really high level basketball on pro circuits. He's played against some world players and he's looked really good. And I think he got thrown into a college basketball game on Monday night and it looked like he had been there before. Just a really good defender, a good complete player offensively. He's got a good shot and can pass the ball as well. You got Robert Jennings, who I'm kind of interested to see how he steps up with Fardaws Amac out. This is definitely an opportunity for him to fill some minutes and play some good basketball in the non-conference slate. But a guy that's pretty much going to be pick and roll on offense and then crashing the glass, which is good. That's what Texas Tech needs down low. And then you've got Elijah Fisher, one of the highest rated recruits in Texas Tech basketball history, should be in his senior year of high school right now, but is playing college hoops in Lubbock. I think the product offensively is still a bit of a work in progress, but I think that he's bought in to
Yeah.
what this team is asking him to do, and that's to grow. And so on Monday night, you saw him take some looks in the post. You saw him making good cuts, attacking the basket, and then playing really good defense. If that's what you get out of Elijah Fisher, that is a year one hit for a guy that was a consensus 5-star prospect.
Yeah. The Canadian, eh? I mean, dude, he was hooping with their, I don't know if it was like their 18U national team or what, but I know he was playing some some ball at that level, man. And that's anytime you're doing that, I feel like you're going up against guys when it's you talk about like national brands, right? Playing for that Canadian team. I mean, you're gonna be playing against dogs, dude, guys that are just straight up specimens, man, beasts out there. So you could tell, I think last night of all the young guys, to me, Fisher almost seemed like from a physicality standpoint, he kind of, and when you think of how young he is, like you just said, should be, playing high school ball still his senior year. I mean, he didn't skip a beat when it came to mixing it up and being able to kind of throw down, man, with some of these D1 athletes. So that'll be good. Pop Isaacs is a really, really interesting, or it's just an exciting, let me rephrase that. He's an exciting prospect for Texas Tech. I'm a big, I love the three ball. I'm a big 3-point. Lane will make fun of me and tell, I like to think I'm a 3-point specialist in the YMCA league, right? Like there's nothing better, man, than just a crisp three stroking the net. And to me, I mean, he showed, I don't want to be kind of hyperbolic here, but he took some deep shots last night that it looked so comfortable to him. He's somebody I think can really grow into his own. And the turnovers obviously can happen when you're coming up against the Creightons of the world, Arkansas, whenever we get to the Maui Invitational. But he's a guy I think as he starts to understand this, he starts to adapt to the speed of the game, right? At the college level, when he starts getting comfortable with that speed, watch out, man. He could be a weapon, man, a real weapon, a real threat for Texas Tech. So excited for him. Let me ask you this, Ryan, of all the young guys that are new to this program, who do you see making the biggest impact this year?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take Pop Isaacs. I think that's the safe pick right now, just given the fact that he's already in the starting lineup. And I think he brings something that nobody else on this team really has. And that's just the ability that he has to make plays on offense. He's got true point guard instincts, unlike anybody that Texas Tech has on the roster or has had on a roster for a long time. And so I think he's got some flashes of running an offense that are really, really promising. And then the shot was said to be much improved throughout this offseason. It looked good in the first game. If that can continue to go down, he's going to be a perennial starter on this team. I feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah, agreed, man. I think he definitely, like you said, brings a different element that you haven't quite maybe seen recently when it comes to a young player and his sort of upside and star potential. So looking forward to seeing how he continues to get, is incorporated in what we're doing and sort of how his ceiling or where his ceiling's at when it comes to his offensive prowess and kind of what he can get done. So let's talk about now. There's a lot more new faces on this team than there are returners. I think we have it's this is going to show. I can't believe I'm about to out myself as a Texas Tech podcast host, not knowing this. KJ Allen, he's still on the team, no? Yeah, okay, good. Say KJ Allen, Bacho, oh my God, O'Banner. We got those three, and then is there anyone else besides those three back? Okay,
Nope.
there we. Wow, here we go, man. See, I'm getting nervous over here, thinking I wasn't going to remember them. Those three, you got Allen, Bacho, and O'Banner. Of the three returners, and I think it's kind of a two horse race here. But who are you most excited about this year as far as returners go, Ryan?
Yeah, well, just monitoring the Daniel Bacho situation this offseason was kind of crazy because you
Yeah.
kept hearing these reports of, oh, hey, he's fully running the offense out of the mid post today in practice, like making great passes, getting guys open, putting the ball down and scoring. And so there was just a lot of hype on him throughout this offseason. And then he comes out in the first game of the season, finishes with a double double. I think it was 12 points, 10 boards, and 4 assists, which is pretty insane for a guy that was, off of professional basketball for 2 years with some knee injuries, and then came back last year, showed that he can play Big 12 basketball, and has emerged this season as just an absolute nightmare. And so it's definitely Daniel Bacho for me. I think that his role will kind of be fluid as Fardaws Amac maybe gets back into the fold in a couple of weeks, but even just after game one, I think a lot of the hype on Bacho was valid. And I think that he can be a really key aspect of this team's offense. And then if he can, defend the rim on defense, that would just be a huge bonus to his game. I think that that's where he really starts to gain that attention from professional leagues that Texas Tech has been talking about this offseason. If he can kind of protect the rim and anchor them down low, it's not only good for him, it's going to be really good for this Texas Tech defense.
I mean, I saw Bacho catch it at the high post last night, turn, make a move, go put it on the deck, go by a guy and get an and one layup, left-handed. I mean, that's like, you look at where he was at last year, and Bacho had some good intangibles last year, but it's almost hard for me to look at this team. And again, I know it's on a kind of a smaller scope when you look at returners, but you think about who has who's having the best offseason. It's hard not to say Daniel Bacho right now. In fact, I would say that's probably just a pretty obvious and easy answer. I mean, he looked polished last night. I saw something earlier and I could be mistaken, but I think did he said something about him leading the team in maybe assists, rebounds, and points in game one. I mean, that's incredible. And so, yeah, I think Bacho's come a long way. He's going to step up even more so. I think with Fardas outright, you got your bigs, and he's going to get to see a lot more playing time. Defensively, I agree with you. I think that's going to be where he's going to have to kind of shore up some things with his game. But offensively, we're talking about some major improvements. We're talking about from a facial hair standpoint, some major improvements, man, with the mutton chops coming down. I mean, he's got that lumberjack look to him. He's kind of a intimidating presence out there in more than one way. So I don't know, man. Bacho, really excited about him. Let's talk a little bit about KO here, Kevin O'Banner, man. He played well last night. I thought, there was talks in the offseason that Mark Adams was really looking to sort of change the style of our offense from from a recruiting standpoint, from getting guys in that could sort of execute a more fast, I don't say up pace, kind of like that Golden State tempo, right? Where you get down, you look for it. If you can get an open three, you're going to take it out of the offense. But guys that can shoot the ball more in stride, in rhythm, and sort of just elevate our offensive output ultimately. And I think Kevin O'Banner is a player that you're going to see really benefit from that this year. Last year, and last year's kind of the way we ran, the way the Mark Adams' game plan was when it comes to defense is obviously your bread and butter. You're long, you're athletic, super versatile. Kevin O'Banner was playing great defense. We saw games where, and I believe he's the kind of guy that he's a gamer. Once he gets going, you leave him in there, you let him bang down low a little bit, get some putbacks. All of a sudden, that's going to feed his ability to stroke threes on the outside. He's just a guy that kind of a show pony, as we joke around on the Ramblin' Raiders podcast a lot. Show pony. I mean, you get him going. He's a rhythm guy, and felt like last year with Peary, that there were times where we kind of pulled him out when he was getting hot or he didn't feel comfortable in the setup that we were running on offense. He didn't feel comfortable in the offensive sets. This year, I think he can benefit from a fresh new start, a new look with our staff change and with the new offensive schemes that we're running. What do you think KO is going to be able to do this year in this offense, and kind of what is his, how high is his ceiling now that he's in a more kind of flex, free offensive model?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And I think when you're a catch and shoot player, which is what Kevin O'Banner is on the offensive end, you are really, really dependent on the rest of your offense creating space for you. And spacing is something that Texas Tech has struggled with over the last couple of seasons, mainly because they haven't really had a true ball handler to get to the rim and disrupt some of that defense. Now, you're exactly right. And Steve Green comes in and he's going to play a very different style of offense than Texas Tech has played in the last couple of years. I think you saw glimpses of that last night. I think it's still coming to fruition, but you saw some good cuts. You saw some open threes. You saw some more leniency on letting guys take pull-up jumpers. I think those are all things that Green brings with him. But when you've got a guy like O'Banner, I think this team has the personnel and they have the scheme to create more space for him, which is really, really good because this guy is not a 33% 3-point shooter or whatever he was at last year. He's just not. He's better than that. There are 3 years of data to one that support the fact that he's better than that. And so I think a new style of offense should be really good for him. And then even on Monday night, he did something where he caught the ball in the corner and he put the ball down. I don't even think he got a bucket, but he went right to the rim. Last year, if he would catch the ball on the 3-point line, and if he didn't have a shot, he would pump fake. He would take one dribble and then he would step out and try another three. Which this was a guy who you want to give the green light, but he's shooting 33%. And so I think even on Monday night, just that hint of aggression, it just continues to prove what I think about him as a player, which is that this is a guy who's going to do whatever it takes to win. He's relentless. He's selfless. He wants to do whatever he can to help his team win. And I think there were some really promising flashes of that on Monday night.
Yeah, I was just rewatching some of the game film on ESPN Plus, and there was, he caught one in the corner, kind of just maybe did a half pump, like a hezzy almost, and then went by a guy and just dished it off. I believe it was to Walt, Kerwin Walter, right?
Walton, yeah.
Walton, that's it, man. I'm telling you, just give me like 2 or 3 games. I'm gonna have all these guys' names down right. But Walton, man, he makes a perfect dish to Walton, who's cutting in the middle of the lane, spacing, cuts are open now, better spacing, and he gets an easy finger roll layup. And it just felt so much more fluid than it did last year when we had our offensive struggles and we were so stifled at times offensively, it felt like. So that's a good point. I'm actually gonna you're kind of ties into the next line of questioning, which gets into schematics, right? X's and O's. What are we going to see differently from an X's and O's standpoint this season? We all know what Texas Tech struggled with last year. A lot of it was offensive related, as you just mentioned, and they were really versatile and great on defense. Let's start with the offense. What sort of I guess from a sort of coach's perspective, or if you're looking at film, you're looking at spacing, you're looking at sets, you're looking at different just different looks that this offense is going to give you. Maybe even tempo, moving it, kind of getting it up the floor quicker. What can Texas Tech fans expect differently from an offensive perspective this season with the personnel that we have? Clearly, we have some better shooters on this team, or guys that are capable of filling it up. What do you think, Ryan, as far as differences on the offensive end this year?
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to see a higher number of 3-point attempts. I think that's kind of ingrained into what Steve Green wants to do offensively. And I also think it's something that Mark Adams realized was not a strength of his last season, and he needs it to be. If you're going to win Big 12 games, you've got to be able to shoot the three. Texas Tech had a historically bad season last year shooting the three. There was kind of a clear approach in Mark Adams recruiting where it was like, okay, I can't sacrifice this. Maybe I can sacrifice some length on the defensive end, which I think he did, but he gained some 3-point shooting. And so I think that's really what you're going to see out of the offense is a team that's more centered around shooting the three. And then I actually think you're going to see this sounds kind of strange, but I think you're going to see a noticeable increase in the amount of free throws attempted. And the reason for that is because you have a number of competent ball handlers on this team who, when they get the ball on the perimeter, can put it down and get to the basket. And I think that's going to be a huge key for this team throughout the season, just because of how they've struggled against, defenses that are either really long and athletic or against teams that run the zone. Because now you've got a number of guys that can break it because they can put the ball down and they can shoot. And you've got a number of competent ball handlers who can challenge some of those lengthier defenders. And so I'm excited. I still don't think that we've seen a full look at what it's going to look like, but I feel very confident that the scheme aligns with the personnel this year. And I think that's something that, whether it instantly clicks or whether it clicks in full is to be determined. But I think as you look at what this offense wants to achieve and the guys that they've assembled to do it, it looks like a good fit so far.
Yeah, and that's all just spot on, man. Hit it on the head there. And I think that now, you're starting to see Baylor has I won't say modified, but maybe to an extent taken the no middle defense, right? And they run a version of it. Texas, Chris Beard, he's gonna be running a version of that. He got to, witness the doctor, man, the defensive doctor and genius, mad scientist, whatever you want to call Mark Adams when it comes to that um defensive scheming. And so you see Texas running a version of it. Really, a lot of Big 12 teams do. This is one of those kind of, I feel, somewhat revolutionary. I know Bobby Knight was running it back in the early 2000s, a version of it as well. But you're starting to see more teams really pick up on and adapt this no middle defensive concept. Playing the no middle defense concept. And so to your point, shooting threes. I mean, we saw it last year. If you can't shoot, I mean, Texas Tech had one of the best defense in the country, but the games are, well, I guess by KenPom, I think we did have the number one rated defensive efficiency number. So still, Duke in the Sweet 16, they just had those guys that could kind of get it done on you, score on you late, and Tech hit those scoring droughts that stopped them from being productive. So it is refreshing. I think fans are going to be really excited to know that this year we have the guys that are capable. We might have sacrificed, like you said, and this is going to be my next question, a little bit on defense, right? It's not as stout as a D as you had with last year's squad, but you're getting so much more offensive capability out of it. And that's the balance you need to win the Big 12, to go to a Final Four. So it's going to be fun to watch. I totally agree with you there. Let's talk about the defense a little bit more in depth. I know you just alluded to it, but Mark Adams coach teams have, well, we've only had one. I feel like since he was here under Beard, it's like equate that to all these defenses we've seen for the last 5-6 years, right? Last year in particular, though, I mean, the physicality and the versatility to produce just the number one KenPom defense that we saw, super intimidating defense that we had this year. And it's that kind of Mark Adams, I forgot what Rosenstein's shirt, the defense never sleeps, right? It's that Mark Adams signature defense that you see out of teams. And last year it was even heightened because of the physicality, because of the versatility. How much do you think we drop off from kind of what we were able to do defensively last year? And what can Tech fans expect in that regard as far as this team's defensive potential on that end of the ball?
Yeah, well, looking at last year, you look at the scheme of the no middle defense and you think about the personnel that was on the roster, and it was really just a dream come true. Like to put a bunch of gadgets on your team and tell them that they can guard 1 through 5 and defend wherever they want. It just must have been a dream come true for Mark Adams in so many ways. And so that defense was really special. Obviously, we've seen a couple of really good Texas Tech defenses over the years, but that defense was special just because it felt like the personnel was such a good fit. And now you look at this team, and it's a very different team on paper, especially when you're thinking about defense of, okay, I've got 3 guys at wing this year. I mean, that's really what you've got. You've got Jalen Tyson, Kerwin Walton, and Elijah Fisher. Those are really your
Yeah.
your 3 wings on this team. I mean, you've got, a guy like Davion Harmon, Lamar Washington. Those guys can kind of kick over and play some sort of wing type role. But those 3 players are really your only gadget guys that you just seem to have all over the roster this year. And so your
Mhm.
defense is definitely not going to be as long as it was last year, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be bad. We don't really have anything to assess this defense against because there's really not been a team that's come through like this over the years at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen some guard heavy teams, but some of the guys on those guard heavy teams weren't defensive minded players. They were just there to get a bucket. And
Mhm.
now I think you've got a really good balance. And so it's a really interesting just look on paper and thinking about how things will play out on the court. But I think you've got some really good individual defenders, especially in guys like Davion Harmon. Lamar Washington had some good moments on tape last night. Jalen Tyson is long. He's improved on that end. Kerwin Walton looked pretty good in his first game. And so I think you've got the tools to have another good defense. I do think you're going to miss some of that length against teams like Kansas. I think
Yeah.
that your guard players are going to be tested in games like Baylor. But overall, I think you've got good personnel and your scheme has proven to work. And so you essentially have to buy into a Texas Tech defense at the beginning of the season and just wait for them to give you reason to lose confidence because it
Yeah.
usually takes a while.
I got you. That's refreshing to hear. And at some point, I think fans would trade, and not suggesting that it's going to be a fall off. Like you said, I mean, we haven't had a team like this before. So I think the defense, especially when you have a leader in Mark Adams who is so defensive minded, defense is going to be there to an extent. Will it be the dream scenario that he had last year? No, but can it still be very effective? Absolutely. So we're going to see kind of like you said how that plays out against better competition. But at the end of last year, and this shows how spoiled we are, right? Sweet 16, lose to the team that ended up in the Final Four, and all this. But I think if you polled Texas Tech fans at the end of last year and kind of asked what they would want to see different out of or what they would love for us to improve on, it's offensive ability. And so having that balance is going to really, I think, create some more exciting, that sounds bad because, some more exciting brand of basketball. Not that, I mean, winning is exciting, even if you do it, 50 to 55, playing hard-nosed defense, bring your lunch pail like we did last year. But I think fans are going to be really excited to see that kind of change of pace with offense mixed with a really good defense as well. So exciting, man. I mean, this is a really, and this kind of gets into the next part here, and this is going to be the realistic expectations. Let's start level setting for Texas Tech fans, which is hard to do, me included. I was the one that said our football team was going to go 6-6, 7-5, which could still happen. It could still happen. We don't know, guys. Let's all pump the brakes. We'll find out here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, right? I forgot when our bye week is. Let's talk about it for basketball. And the bar has been set so high, which is a testament to Mark Adams, testament to this Texas Tech basketball program, to the culture we've built. Bar's always going to be set high, but let's try to get, kind of in the weeds and be a little bit objective and realistic here. In your opinion, Ryan, what chances do you give Texas Tech a win in the Big 12 this year? And I know that's saying a lot because the Big 12 is, I mean, it's the SEC. I would even argue on steroids when it comes to football, man. I mean, yeah, Big 12 basketball is unmatched. So a realistic shot of winning it all this year in the Big 12, and then also let's just say finishing in the top four. Can Texas Tech fans realistically expect to kind of finish in that upper echelons?
Yeah, I think just truly based on what we've seen from game one and looking at the roster, I think your chances of winning the Big 12 are slim. And that's less to do with you and more to do
Yeah,
with
I'll say,
Baylor, who
yeah.
is just gonna be a really incredible basketball team this year. I really do think they've just got some incredible guard play down there in Waco that's gonna be tough to beat. And then, Kansas is gonna be pretty good as well. They showed some struggles in their exhibition game, but I think they will come around and be a pretty good team. And so I think with those two teams at the top and everyone else being, decent, but still a question mark, I think your chances are slim. But at a top four finish, you've got to feel a lot better about that. And there's really no reason why you shouldn't expect it. I mean, this basketball program has proven that they can compete with the upper echelon of the Big 12 because they are the upper echelon of the Big 12. And so, you're going to have some hard games against teams like Texas and TCU in there as well. I mean, but who knows? It's Big 12 basketball. It's insane. You never really know
Yeah.
what's happening until January or February, but there are definitely some chances for anarchy to break loose and for Texas Tech to finish higher.
Yeah.
But I feel pretty confident in Texas Tech finishing at least fifth this year. I think if I were to play it safe, that would be my guess. Were to be fifth or fourth place this year.
Which in the Big 12 is not an indictment at all. I mean, that's, you finish fourth or fifth in the Big 12, you're probably a top 9 seed in the tournament, right? So I think Tech fans need to realize this team is younger, I'll say, than I think what we've seen in years prior. There's going to be a learning curve that is associated with that and is, part of that territory. So it's going to be fun. I really do. I'm an offensive guy, so I love how good we are on defense. But I'm excited to kind of maybe have some of those more back and forth, a little bit of high scoring games. And Big 12, it's always fun, man. When obviously you're winning, it's better, but you're going to get great games night in, night out. Texas is ranked, TCU's ranked. I know we saw them almost get beat by Arkansas Pine Bluff, um, which is pretty was kind of hard to believe. Texas Tech's ranked, Baylor, Kansas, Iowa State looks to be improved. Kansas State, I think can only get better from where they were at last year. I mean, it's as a whole, I think you're just going to have, there's no easy nights. There's no easy nights, no nights off in the Big 12. So it'll be tough. Let's talk about, and it's way too early. So I'll go ahead and take a long swig of my good old gin and agua here. But everybody, when you talk about March or you talk about college basketball, you're going to talk about the greatest sporting event besides the World Cup, which I'm super pumped about, is going to be happening here in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? March Madness. It's the best. Everyone loves it. Realistically, Ryan, I mean, last year we go Sweet 16. By all metrics, your standards are always higher. You want to do better, but played a really good game against a Duke team that was built for a Final Four in Coach K's last year. This team, and granted, again, there's a lot to speculate on here, a lot of variables and factors that we can't really account for. Tech fans level set with them. Where do you think a reasonable finish for this team is this year when it's all said and done in the big dance? And assuming that we make, I'm going to go ahead and just call our shot now that we make the tournament. What's a reasonable expectation as far as finishes? Round of 32, Sweet 16, Elite Eight. How do you see this team faring?
Yeah, I think making the tournament is definitely in the picture. I think that's got to be expected at this point and where the program's at. And just competing in this conference, you have just endless opportunities to develop a March resume. And so I think making the tournament should be expected. And then I would say, just on the safe side, I'll go one win in the tournament.
Yeah.
I think you've got to win in advance for this to be considered overall a successful season.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like Sweet 16, making it back there isn't totally out of the picture as well. I think this is definitely a talented team. I think they're young. I think they haven't played together very much. I think they're going to be games where that's clear and obvious. I think they're going to have some mental hiccups. They're going to be a team that goes through some growing pains, but overall, it's a really talented roster. I really like the way that Mark Adams and company have built around the schemes. They've seemed to assemble a group of players that fit really well with the systems that they want to run. And so I think that's good news for Texas Tech. And so with that, I'll feel pretty confident taking them to win at least one game in the tournament this March.
I like it, and if I'm being perfectly honest, that's about where I would have it as well. Getting if you make it into the tournament as a Big 12, out of the Big 12, you're more than likely, in my opinion, going to be a 9 or above, unless you sneak in. Well, I don't know. Actually, the Big 12 is so good, you can sneak in there as a 12 or maybe a higher seed. But one game I think is reasonable at that point. Anything goes, right? The tournament, who's hot, who's playing well at that time. So good take there from the man, the myth, the legend. I'll go ahead and say it full blown. Ryan Manville. Well, man, that's wait, actually, hold on. Before we get to the money round, which is really actually my favorite part of these interviews, let's go ahead and talk. Let's look at our questions that we had. I believe we have 3 or 4 questions from our Twitter followers. So pull that up for you guys. Here we go. Small sample size, but did anyone fall short of the expectations in game one? This is from our boy Nick up in Portland. What's up, man? Thanks for the question. Ryan, game one, anyone, it's tough, but underperform a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I think, fall short in game one is always a mark that you never really want to ascribe a guy under. But I think guys that I was a little bit curious to just watch play were Davion Harmon and him just kind of adjusting to that primary ball handler role on offense. I think he was a bit sporadic at times, but again, I'm confident in a veteran guy like that turning it around. And then Pop Isaacs, just kind of proving what I expected, and that being a true freshman point guard definitely comes with its ups and downs. But a lot of basketball left ahead, and I'm very optimistic on all the guys on this roster.
Yes. Good, great. Yeah, on that one. Here, but Davian Harmon, you heard it here first, man. Gotta tighten it up. Northwestern State. Got to see something better out of you. No, I'm just kidding. I think Davian Harmon's going to be a big piece to the puzzle with this year's team. Okay, Dustin asks, and hey, Dustin, thanks for coming out, man. I really appreciate that. Given the state of the Big 12, would you be happier with a Big 12 championship and let's say a Sweet 16 run, or a second or third place finish in the Big 12, but you make it to the Final Four?
I'm always taking a deep tournament run.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think finishing
yeah,
top 2 or 3 in the Big 12 this year would mean that you're probably a top 10 team, which
yeah.
feels difficult to pass on. So that's my take for sure.
I would say that, and that's a fair question because a Big 12 championship with how good the Big 12 is, I mean, that's an accolade. That's one where, when people are beefing on Twitter, they're pulling out, how many championships you have, how many big conference ships do you have? That would be a big feat. And then Sweet 16. But at that point, the other way I'd look at it is if you win the Big 12 per se, I mean, probably a 1-2 seed, well, I'm going to assume, right? So then a Sweet 16 exit is kind of a disappointment at that point. So I agree. I'd be saying Final Four run all the way. And then someone who unfamiliar probably to you. I don't know if you know this guy. His name's Emery Lida. Lida, yeah, is that right, Emery? Yeah, I don't know if you know him at all, Ryan, but he asked last year we had the Buzzo Hive, Darkar. What's the go-to fan club for this year? Is Emery, and if anybody doesn't know, Emery, and Ryan hosted the Locked On Texas Tech podcast together, and so pals that go back, man, go way back. So, anyways, that's Emery's question, Ryan.
Yeah, shout out to M. Still a very good friend of mine. Enjoyed our time working together. Man, there's a lot of good names on this team. You've obviously got Pop Isaacs, which feels like a front runner for developing kind of a little bit of a fan club going. But man, I don't know. I haven't put my head down and thought about it. I feel like we may get something cooking on Elijah Fisher. I don't know. I'll have to put my brain power to work over the next couple of days.
I think it's whoever gives the first posterizing dunk, does something out of, something crazy like that is going to be, everyone's going to hop on board with that. Actually, Pop Isaacs is another one. I mean, that guy's just got that. He's got that it factor to him that could really get some people inspired. So great. Thank you all for everyone who, our Rambling Raiders Twitter following that got involved there and asking questions. Appreciate that. We're here at the money round. We'll call it the Mainville money round. 3 questions. We're going to keep it a little shorter than we normally do. I know, so that, for people that are watching on YouTube, we give them a chance to not have to go through their entire lunch break, or putting their kids to sleep, or whenever they're watching this content, right? Try to give them a little bit of leeway here on timing. So, money round. First question, man. This is I think you were there for some pretty good years of basketball, Ryan. So you got to see some just awesome games. Favorite basketball game while you were at Tech, man. What would you go with?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a little bit of a deep hit. I got to witness some really important victories by Texas Tech, but maybe my favorite basketball game that I went to was the 2019-20 game against Kansas State. And that was the game where Cartier Jara of Kansas State
Oh,
stole the ball on a half court breakaway and tried to do this crazy dunk in game. Didn't go down. Texas
right.
Tech got the rebound, find a wide open Davide Moretti, and he knocked down a three. And then he was freaking out in the timeout with the coaching staff. And that was a moment that just kind of encapsulated the USA experience for me. Just an unreal place to play. When he
Yeah.
missed that dunk and Moretti made the three, it was louder in there to me than I remember it being in the Kentucky game, which was another really high choice on my list. Obviously, the loss sours that one a bit, but that 1920
Yeah.
game against Kansas State, that was an incredible moment. So funny. The arena went nuts, and just
Yeah.
a great Texas Tech basketball moment.
That's one of those sequences that you just like don't forget because of the significance, or like like you said, kind of that funny, maybe even element and aspect of it. Kind of almost makes me think of, I wasn't there, but I would imagine for those that were, because I felt like my speakers on my TV were gonna break. But in the 2000, the national championship team, I guess, was that 18-19, right? Or
Yeah,
no, yeah, 18-19. The TCU home game where we had, uh it was some, I can't remember who, I think maybe Mooney or someone feeds Owens for a dunk, and everyone's like super hyped about that. They come down, and then Owens gets a block on, I can't remember that dude's name, the TCU point guard, who he just stuffs. Then they run down and throw an alley oop to Culver. I mean, that like back those 3 plays in a row. It was on a big Monday, Big Monday against TCU. Like, that's just something I will never forget as a Tech fan. That was one of like the most hype moments. I mean, I can only imagine what it was like in the USA in that moment.
yeah, it's a deafening experience. And like,
Yeah.
just my plug as somebody completely unaffiliated with Texas Tech is that if you are a Texas Tech fan and you have not been to a Texas Tech basketball game in the last couple of years, just
Yeah.
go. Just go. Do whatever it takes to arrange plans to Lubbock, buy a ticket, find a good deal. A lot of people always have good deals on tickets. It is worth the experience. It is worth whatever money you put down to go out to Lubbock and catch a game. Just truly an atmosphere unlike anyone else.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's kind of like, you look at the great, like going and seeing a game like in Death Valley, Baton Rouge, or like going to, Michigan, their stadium and football, like something like that. I mean, that is what, or the Fog, I'll give them credit, even though they never want to give Texas Tech credit. The Fog, right? Going to a Kansas game for basketball, like that is what the USA has turned into, man. I mean, it is an atmosphere like any other, just as no input, objective, just kind of have no dog in the fight fan. You can enjoy an experience at the USA. Totally agree with that. All right, how about this, man? Favorite hobby? We're gonna get a little more personal here, man. For all of your followers, fans out there that like to listen to your content. When you're not doing sports media, when you're not looking at Texas Tech sports, and what's going on there, what do you like to do, man? Favorite hobby outside of that?
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, which you should be, go subscribe to the Ramblin' Raiders Media YouTube channel. You can see in my background that I've got a couple of guitars hanging up and I've got a piano right beside me. And so music is definitely my favorite hobby. It's where I spend most of my time when I'm not working on sports stuff. I just really enjoy writing music, recording music, just just hanging around, gigging with my friends. I've been really blessed to just have a great group of friends that all play different instruments, and we track sometimes. And so
Yeah.
music is definitely a big hobby of mine. Always loved the art of it. And ever since learning to play guitar about 7 years back, it's just been a great joy of my life.
All right, so I'm envisioning it now. I got a Ramblin' Raiders tailgate sometime at the USA. Let's maybe the UT home game, Kansas home game, or hell, we can do it. We're looking at doing one in Austin on January 14th for whenever we take over the mood when Texas Tech invades Austin again. I'm seeing it now, man. We got Manville and the boys, dude. We'll just book y'all a gig, dude. Y'all come play at the tailgate and jam out, man. That would be awesome. That's really cool. I love music too. I play a little bit of piano just because my mom forced me to growing up, right? And if you give me like some sheet music in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I can come back and maybe loosely play the song for you. But that's awesome, man. It's a great hobby to have. Music brings people together. It's really cool. And I didn't know that about you, man. That's awesome. So there, hey, you heard it here first. We got a collab going. Manville, whatever, Ryan, whatever your bands or you and your buddies come together, track it over at the Ramblin' Rares tailgate. Man, we'd love to have you guys and share some beers in the process. Last but not least, man, it's the holiday season. You and I were talking about this pre-pod, right? Like weddings were going on. You got all kinds of work events, conferences, retreats, whatever, man. It's just the shuffle kind of down in fall, right down the stretch. Halloween's over. Now we're getting into Thanksgiving and Christmas. One of my favorite times of the year. You have football, basketball, getting in the thick of it. The holiday season. When it comes to movies that you enjoy, Ryan, holiday movies, and this can be Hallmark, this can be like classic, like Tim Allen, Santa Claus, whatever. The Grinch. There's so many good ones, man. Me and my wife, guilty pleasure of ours. Starting December 1st, we watch a Christmas movie every single night. It's just like puts you in the best mood ever, right? Go to holiday movie. And it can even, I don't know if there are any Thanksgiving movies, but I mean, just from like here on till Christmas, man, what's your go to holiday spread look like movie wise?
Yeah, I wish I had some deep hits. I like to be a guy that can hopefully get some plugs that people haven't heard of before. But
Yeah.
honestly, man, I am a huge sucker for Home Alone and Elf. Those are easily two of my favorite movies of all time. Not even just Christmas movies, just two great movies. And I'm with you, man. I love the holidays. It's a great time of year just to be around family and friends, and a lot going on in the sports world, which is always exciting. But
Yeah.
that this time of year is special for a variety of reasons, and one of them has got to be Elf and Home Alone, because I mean, come on, man, those are two of the greatest movies of all time.
No, I mean, no doubters at all. In fact, I was flying back from a wedding this last week, and on Southwest, they have your slate of movies you get during the flight, and one of them was Elf, and I was this close, but I was like, whoa, I can't watch it yet though. I gotta wait. I mean, I could watch it every day if I'm being real, but like I was like, I gotta wait for my wife. We'll wait till December. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and then Home Alone, it is goated, man. I mean, just an all-time classic, and one of the best. So those are great answers, man. Appreciate that, Ryan. Love to mix it up a little bit, man. Here at the end, holiday season rolling around. Let's hope, man. Maybe we get a bowl game in the mix. Maybe we get a Maui Invitational Championship in the mix. There's a lot of good things going on with Texas Tech sports and the Texas Tech community. As we close out here, I'm going to give you another chance. I know you did it earlier, but for anyone that missed it, or just to go ahead and do it for our listeners that are listening to this on Apple Pod, Spotify, plug, man, as far as your Twitter, socials. And let me just go ahead and say before he gives you all his at, if you're not following Ryan, you're as a Texas Tech fan, you're not living your best life, man. I mean, I enjoy, and I know Ryan's smiling. I'm a hype man, but I truly believe in it. I mean it when I say, um, if you want to be in the know especially with basketball, but with football, with everything, follow Ryan, man. He's one of those accounts that is really dialed in, has really good insights to what's going on when it comes to Texas Tech sports. You'll be happier that you did. I'll tell you that. So Ryan, plug away, man. Your socials.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words again, Jackson. And we've been talking about doing this app for a while now. I mean, we've
Yes.
talked a couple of times over the last 3 years or so, and so
Cheers to
pleasure's all
this,
mine, my
man.
friend. Yeah, amen, man. But yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Mainville, just my name. I like to do, as Jackson mentioned earlier, some player breakdowns, some stats, and then the occasional dunking on UT fans because you just have to. And so you can follow me on
I
Twitter
love
at
it.
Ryan Mainville. Follow the Gambling Gauchos, which is the podcast that I'm a part of,
Yeah.
specifically on YouTube. We've got some YouTube content coming out over the next couple of months, which should be exciting. And then you can search my name into Google, Ryan Mainville, and one of the first things that pop up should be my byline at the Dallas Morning News, which is where I cover Texas Tech sports. And so got a lot of content coming out right now with the two sports overlapping for the month of November. And so if you're hungry for Texas Tech content, come on over and I'll get you situated.
If you have an appetite, man, he's ready to feed the hungry. So thanks again, Ryan. Guys, this has been a great episode. Basketball preview. 1-0. Moving into our non-con slate, which I know doesn't feature the most daunting teams until we get to the Maui. The Maui is going to be where we're going to make or break kind of our non-con schedule. But really excited to have Ryan on to just preview what's going on. Who to look out for on this team. Different sort of looks, schematically that you're going to get from this group and from this coaching staff. And I think it's going to be an exciting basketball season as it's always been. So with that, we'll see y'all later on here at the Ramblin' Raiders podcast. Any final words, Ryan?
It's all West Texas. Wreck 'em.
It's all West Texas. Ramble on. Guns up, baby. We'll see y'all later.